Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Attorney Sharp Raleigh, and breaking news today on the OPT new OPT extension. And here, as you can see on the screen, this is the Federal Register document, the one that is going to be published under the CFR. And now, finally, we got the final rule on the new OPT, which is the F1 improving and expanding training opportunities for F1 students with STEM degrees and cap relief for all eligible F1 students. We did a video on this few days ago. It's pretty much kind of consistent what we have said, except one little difference on the 24-month. It seems like they have not mentioned the 224-month, but the rest is pretty much the same. So this is a regulation that will be published probably in 2 days. As you can see here, it will be published and it will become law on May 10, which is great news, basically before the one expires from the time given by the judge on the case, which had actually invalidated the 17-month extension, and this will replace the 17-month STEM OPT. So I'm going to go over the rule, and here's the table of contents. It's a 300-page rule, but I'm going to go to the important part, and the important part is the one that everybody wants to know about. So basically, the purpose of it, like it says, is basically to enhance the situation with the OPT students, especially those who are not especially for those only on STEM, and this kind of revokes the previous, as you say the word vacatur here. It basically it was vacated. The previous rule of OPT, which was issued in 2008, is gone now, and the new one will become law on May 10, 2016. So as from May 10, 2016, a new OPT and the new rules will come out. So proceeding how we should, there will be probably a question and answers, frequent FAQs that will come out from the USCIS, and we will analyze that later. But at this point, from the information we're getting from the publication, I'm going to try my best to kind of guide the students what is in there and what can be done. So first of all, the summary of the final rule. It's going to be the F1 student who fall under STEM. STEM, as you know, is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Will be able to apply for 24 more month of extension, and they will be, of course, be eligible to file this now as from May 10 with the new rule. So be ready to talk to your DSO, and be also ready to meet the requirements that they have. So what they have done, actually, they have compared the two rules here on this page, on page 8 and 9, as you see on the screen. um, First of all, as we have mentioned, the time length of the STEM extension period has been increased from 17 months to 24 months. So if you have if you enroll in new academic program and another qualifying STEM degree at a higher educational level, eligible for one additional 24 month. So basically, you will be eligible for another 24 month if you enroll in a new program. So we were talking about the 17 month and 24 month. So now those who wants to enroll in something STEM, they will be able to move to a 24-month STEM extension. The question is that if you're in STEM, will you be able to add that 8 month? I'm pretty sure if you, the DSO might be able to file, or you might be able to file an extension to get that additional 8 month. But at this point, they have not really made that clear. But we will go under the presumption that you can do this. So make sure you're ready for that. And basically, the second thing that is changing, the definition of STEM and the CIP categories. In definition of STEM here is the rule defines which field study that is going to qualify under the STEM. More specifically, which Department of Education classification of instruction program categories may serve as a basis for the STEM OPT. The rule also set forth for public notification in Federal Register DHS, the list of eligible STEM fields in the SEVP. So basically, you will have to check this website, SEVP website, which is basically the service and you will be able to know if you qualify under STEM or not. And as you know, it's science, technology, engineering, mathematics, so you might be eligible for the 24-month STEM. Now let us go into the little bit ugly and worrisome part of it: training plan for the STEM students. So one of the requirements where it's going to become really kind of tricky for employers, as I mentioned in my previous video, is to benefit. You need the employer to prepare a formal training program uh, that will allow the students to basically enhance their augment means enhance um, their academic learning through practical experience, and that means they have to equip the students with something that relates to their study, and they will have to basically make sure that it's not just putting the STEM student, OPT extension student, just like on a job, but you have to pretty much kind of show that this will train them and enhance their abilities. And previously, or STEM degrees, the rule permits F1 student in a 12-month period of post-completion of OPT based on non-STEM degree to use a prior eligible STEM degree from U.S. institution or higher for basis for applying the STEM extension. What it basically says, let's say for example you got a degree where you first you got a degree in biotechnology, for example, and which is in the STEM probably, and later on you did a master's degree where you just did administrative, and it gave you only 12 months. Based on that previous degree of the biotech, for example, you will be able to get a STEM extension, and this is what it talks about here. And this is where the confusion, a lot of people were relying on the last degree. No, you can rely as long as it was obtained from a US institution, and it has to of course qualify under all the requirements of the US institution, but we are not getting into those details. But this is a good news for the students. So you will be able to use a previous degree, even the second degree. For example, an MBA will not qualify under STEM, but the previous degree, if it was in biotech, engineering, mathematics, you might be able to use that to get a 24-month extension. This is really awesome news for people. And of course, one of the big thing, as I mentioned in my previous video, the reason that the law was invalidated is because they say it was not really giving protection to US workers, and that's why you saw those US workers kind of suing on that. So now they will have to prove that you're protecting US workers, and one of the thing is of course the compensation. At this point, you will need to prove that you're not basically paying the OPT students lower than the prevailing wage. How are they going to do that? They might do something which is very much like what we call the system of like we have under the H1B, and we will see those are few points now they brought here as part of completing the 6983 form. Okay, that's another point that I want to mention here. In between, there will be a form, it's called I-983, that have to be filled by the employer to attest, one, it has sufficient resources. It has sufficient resources to basically, first it has to have to prove number one here, it has sufficient resources to provide appropriate training with a specified opportunity. The student will not require part-time or full-time. Temporary employer will not replace those part-time or temporary US worker. And third, the opportunity will help the student to attain his or her objectives. Let us analyze that whole thing here, because this is major, and this is the reason that basically STEM was kind of attacked. For one, uh, not everybody will be able to employ the STEM student in this case if they don't have the resources, for one. Two, there will be no replacement of US workers. This is major because they are going to sign under oath that they are not replacing US workers, and if they violate that, there might be some major repercussions on the company. And three, it has to basically help the student, It cannot just be work to be productive, no, but it has to help the student to enhance, to attain his training or her training objectives. Which means basically, if you are in biotech, for example, I'm using biotech as an example, you will have to show that this is going to enhance this STEM student to really make do better and basically meet the requirements of training, which is kind of hard but not that hard. And this is where we can help many of the employers who are employing STEM students. We need to basically kind of have a good plan, etc. But we're not getting into the details of that at this point. We will get into that at a later stage, and probably as soon as they come out with frequently asked questions answers. And that's another major point which I mentioned before in the other video. Site visits and employer reporting. Many times people will just assume that, hey, any school will qualify for that. Now they are going to really limit the schools who qualify for that. Even a school which is accredited, they might not be what they say generally limits the eligibility. That means even a school that you have seen on the books that are accredited will still not meet this unless they conduct, not unless, but they have a right to just conduct in a site visit and find out if the requirements are being met. So not only they're going to talk about the school itself accreditation will not be enough, because they might just say, okay, for example, we know there are many schools out there who are basically, I'm not saying anything bad, they might be helping the students, but they are also becoming what we call the visa mills. Those schools might be in big trouble with that clause. And also we might, so pick your school carefully. And also at the discretion of the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, they just can come to your employer and do a site visit, which they have done actually on H1Bs. So now they're going to do it on STEM OPT. Now and then three, you have to they will put something where the employer will have to report on a regular basis to them. And this is something other very important for the employers too. So your employer will have to be ready to do all this, including site visit and also including reporting to the DHS. But the first one is more important, because if the school doesn't qualify, you won't get any of this. So now, and then other, this is another and one good news which we mentioned before. They are going to allow basically a little bit more time on unemployment. There is there will be an additional 60 days added to the STEM students who can be unemployed. As you know, there was 30 days which was allowed unemployment under the old STEM OPT. Now another 60 days, which makes it 90 days. Plus, if you also attach it to the previous one, so it's going to be a total of 150 days. So you can just count this. So basically, all they are saying here, they will allow another 60 days extra of unemployment under the STEM, and I have analyzed that earlier on the previous video. So now let us go with onto what they are keeping. Of course, the big thing they are keeping is e-verify. No employer can take a STEM or even OPT students without showing e-verify. And as you know, e-verify is not very difficult. Make sure if you're an employer, you are e-verifying, and you have to report any changes to the and students will have to report to the DSO within 5 business days. So it's very important you do that. Reporting STEM requirements for STEM students. This is something very important for the student. The rule requires STEM students to report to their DSO any name and address change, either of themselves or their employers. So make sure that you're reporting. Don't, because I have a lot of people calling, oh, I shifted job in between, but I forgot to report it to the DSO. This is not going to fly. So you need to make sure that you do that, because they're going to get strict. Make no mistake about that. Cap gap, the rule of cap gap still there. Cap gap is basically, I mentioned that earlier, if you pass the date of April 1st, you file for an H1B, the H1B gets picked up, you should be able to get what we call the cap gap until October 1st. And but it has to be pending or approval. If it is not picked up in the lottery, you don't get the cap gap, which here they mention here. The cap gap period until new fiscal year. So for those who don't know about cap gap, I'm not going to go too much details on cap gap, but usually it works as long as your OPT passes the date of April 1st and you file an H-1B, it gets picked up in the lottery and it is pending or it is approved. You can stay and work with your employer until October 1st when your H-1B kicks in. So, and a few points now. There's a summary of changes from the proposed rule, which I have to mention here because I just did a video based on the proposed rule. So now we have some of the few changes that are inside that proposition itself. So it is very important you look at this because a previous video now there will be some changes that you have to know about. Time accreditation. For STEM OPT extension based on previously obtained STEM degree, the student must have obtained that degree from an educational institution that is accredited at the time of the student application for the extension. So because in order for you, one of the requirements you remember they mentioned here on previous page where they basically talk about the time of the accreditation. You have to make sure they met that requirement at that time to use it. Remember, they say if you got an accreditation from a previous company, a previous a previous school, you can still use that, but you can go ahead and continue on that. And sorry, I kind of closed the file here, so I'm going to go ahead and try to move forward on this. So sorry for that. And I am going to go ahead now talk a little bit about the SEVP certification required for prior degrees and for STEM OPT extension based on the previously obtained STEM degree. They have to be issued by institution that is SEVP certified. That's where you have to be careful which school you're picking right now and which school you're trying to use to get that STEM extension. So unfortunately, it's kind of retroactive now. They will go back to that school if you want to enjoy that 24-month OPT which you have not used. Site visit notification. They will notify the employer 48 hours before any visit unless there is a non-compliance reported. That's where students have to be very careful. If the company has some enemies or you have some issues going on with the company, you got to be careful because they can come anytime. However, if they want to just do regular site visit, which they're probably going to do in the beginning of this rule, they will notify your employer 48 hours prior to that. And the other thing that they are going to put focus on is training. Of course, there will be a mentoring and training report that needs to be done, and they have a form for it. It's called Form I-983, which needs to be filled by the employer. And of course, they will probably use the attorney to do that, and we will be helping also the employers working with us to do that. And the existing training program, the existing training program will have to be reevaluated basically to kind of meet the requirements of the STEM OPT. And employer attestation, as I mentioned that before, you can see here that the employer attestation is something that they will have to write explaining that they are not trying to displace a U.S. worker or either a full-time or part-time worker. That means you're not firing a U.S. worker to give that job to a STEM OPT. And also there will be something called evaluation of student progress. The employer will have to sign an evaluation, midpoint evaluation during the first 12-month interval, and final evaluation completed prior to the STEM OPT extension. The details of those will come out soon, but from what we're understanding, they need to basically keep a good record what the student is doing at the place of work. Having said that, now ladies and gentlemen, I can analyze it comparing the two, and these are just mumbo jumbo, how much it costs to pass that law, etc., etc. These are just data. You can read more about it. I'll put a link of that on my website, and hopefully it will become law on May 10, unless there's a lawsuit, of course. And as you can see, it goes on and on and on. You have pages to pages, pages and pages. These are mostly like the legal part of it whenever something gets published on the Federal Register. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you and congratulations for the breaking news for the students who are going to be on STEM OPT. We wish you best of luck, and if any of you need help, feel free to call our office 510-742-5887. And anything I told you today is for educational purposes only. You should not act or refrain to act solely on the information provided. You should contact an attorney if you have any questions. The number to call 510-742-5887. The website to check is pirallylaw.com, PEERALLYLAW.com. And just to let you know, no attorney-client relationship is created by this video. We wish you all the best, and all the students are welcome to call us if they have any questions or pose their question on this video below, and we will try our best to answer. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. So as on this page here, they will be accepting the STEM extension and the rule as from May 10, and the process will be according. So I reached this page of 236 before I close. I wanted to mention that, and they will be accepting it on May 10. So let's hope. Call us if you need more details on this, and hopefully this will be helpful to all the students. And again, thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. We wish you all the best. Bye bye.